And I'm going to start by saying I'm severely outnumbered right now, guys. I'm the only non-mic here.
The mics have taken over.
You've entered the mic zone.
And I'm a mic too.
Yes, we have Michael and Michael from the Tx Files podcast. Thanks for coming on, you guys. I am super excited to talk to you guys.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for having us. Woo!
Absolutely. You guys cover a lot of cool shit, not just paranormal stuff, but true crime stuff as well. But the first thing I wanted to ask you guys is, how'd you get into the paranormal in general?
Well, first time, okay, so I am Hispanic, Mexican, and so that's always been, for being like, for as long as I can remember, I can always remember stories, somebody telling some crazy story, and this is grown adults. I remember being, like, standing around and them telling some crazy story about how they felt like somebody was possessed, or I remember my mom and grandmother talked about going to see a witch doctor. There's a term for it, Mike. You know what it is.
Bruja.
Yeah, something like that. Because they felt like there was a curse on their house, or like someone in my family had a string of bad luck. And so they felt that someone who didn't like that relative went to a witch doctor and put a curse. So the only way to get rid of it was to go to another witch doctor and to put like a anti-spell against them. So
Campaneo, right? Isn't it?
I don't know what it is. I don't speak Spanish, but it's like, so. You know, for as long as I can remember, that's always been a big part of growing up. And then Michael and I kind of feel like we've always kind of had a general interest in that. In high school, we were I'm not going to say professional ghost hunters, but we dabbled. You know what I mean?
It was we live in a town in it's kind of outside of Austin, and at least when we were in high school, like over 10 years ago, there wasn't as much stuff to do, and so you gotta have to like make your own fun a lot of times. And so we would go on kind of like ghost hunts to like, for instance, one town called Nameless,
which is awesome.
Nameless, Texas, which is just an old cemetery and an abandoned schoolhouse, like a one-room schoolhouse. We went to Pike House, the abandoned fraternity house, which we kind of think we did an episode on. We've mentioned it.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. We'll get into that. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much. But I guess, like, for me, getting into it was, I think it's pretty a familiar story for a lot of us, was Unsolved Mysteries on TV, you know, and seeing that, you know, as a kid all the time. And then they would also play, I think it's called Mysteries of the Bible with Charlton Heston right after that. And so they kind of had like a good little block of weird and mysterious things, and I grew up watching those. And then just kind of also kind of a basic, you know, base interest in science fiction, I guess, always. And then finding out more about the aliens through, you know, just watching shows like Unsolved Mysteries or other things that were on the History Channel or TLC back in the day, when they didn't just have like redneck ice pawn breakers or whatever they're doing.
Remember when TLC used to have documentaries?
Real, and like, yeah, they would have nature stuff and science, and it was so good back in the day.
Whatever happened to that?
It's all reality shows now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all of them are now.
Even Discovery Channel,
Animal Planet, National Geographic. It's all just reality TV. It's such bullshit.
History Channel used to be like 90% legit history, then 10% just like wacky, you know,
like haunted history.
Yeah, and that was the fun stuff.
I loved that stuff though.
Yeah,
Mysteries, mysteries.
Nat Geo still does a lot of shows like that. I like watching that. We've cut the cable cord, so I don't get to watch it as much. But when we did have cable, Nat Geo, they always did like the Life Planet, and not Life Planet. What was that show Discovery did or BBC did?
Planet
Earth. Stuff like that, similar to that.
Yeah.
But they're keeping it OG.
Word.
Unsolved Mysteries just hit Amazon Prime. I'm going to start rewatching them.
Oh, yeah. I've been watching them here and there. I'm like on season 2 or 3. And it's just so much fun, man. And there's so many stories that I know y'all, because you do, you know, you do a lot of things outside of Texas, obviously. And so there's a lot of stories that I've heard on Unsolved Mysteries that I'm sure y'all have covered and a bunch of other shows have covered, but it's kind of cool seeing them do it like, 30 years ago and kind of seeing some of the updates like that. I saw recently they did like DB Cooper was one of their big episodes. I think they did the Gulf Breeze UFO incidents and the Travis Walton incident. They did some really cool ones.
Yeah, that show always scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they also did Amityville horror.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did, and they definitely did a Roswell, and they did.
Yeah.
I just remember the intro song.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It was weird watching Airplane and then see Robert Stack be such a creepy fucker.
It's so weird.
I love him in Basketball.
Oh. I love. Yeah, that's an underrated movie for sure. Like when they go to the collectors, like they see the guy's collector's items, and he has like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, just like
just
sitting there.
So, have either of you ever had a paranormal experience at all?
Michael, you want to take this one?
Yeah,
you saw it. You saw it.
I didn't see anything, but the one that kind of sticks out to me. So kind of like we were saying. There wasn't a whole much to do in high school. So like, I think I want to say within weeks after we had graduated, I went with some friends to this place in San Marcos, Texas, which is about an hour out of Austin, called the Pike House. And it was like a big frat house that had been abandoned since the 80s. And it kind of looked like an old plantation home, but it was on its own block in the middle of a suburb.
Yeah, it was really impressive.
By the college, just Texas State University. So it was right next to that.
Like in a cul-de-sac. And so you were driving down the street and a bunch of these like small houses, nothing crazy. And then you go around the curb and you see, like Michael described it, like a giant old school plantation house. Is exactly what it looked like. But it was all run down and stuff. But yeah, it was totally out of place.
And so I went there with, I don't know, probably like 10 people or so, a whole bunch of us. And we were just all in high school and kind of like laughing, and just kind of goofing and stuff. And we went to the second floor, to the third floor. We went all the way up and all the way down. It's creepy, in the inside, there's just a abandoned house. And it's kind of like a dormitory or an apartment, the layout of the rooms. And there's just like graffiti everywhere, and all these kids, kids have spray painted like pentagrams and all this cool stuff like that, like Ouija boards. So that wasn't that crazy. And so a couple weeks afterwards, I went back with 3 or 4 people because we had been telling them about it. And this time we went in and me and the 3 other people were going up the stairs to the second floor, and they're in front of me, and I'm just a little bit back, like looking at some writing on a wall. We hear something crash, and we all run out of the building, kind of like laughing, I guess. And then we come back in maybe 30 seconds later, and the kitchen where we had run out from, the words "risk" R-I-S-K had been written in blue spray paint like dozens of times over the wall, and it hadn't been there when we left, like when we had run out. And so that was weird. And maybe we just missed it, but I didn't notice it before, but other people were saying like they didn't notice it either, and that it was new, but it was up on the ceiling. And so that was extra weird. And then, so I tell Michael about this, and his uncle, buddy uncle, his Ken, and so they're like, "You're full of shit. Like, this isn't true. You're exaggerating." I'm like, no, I'll take y'all there. And so we go out there. And so the legend of this place was that in the 1980s, it had been, I guess going back further than that, originally it had been a plantation, then it had been a Civil War hospital, then it was an insane asylum, and then this fraternity bought it in the 50s for Texas State, and in the 80s they're hazing some pledges, and they locked them in a freezer, and they couldn't get open, and these kids died in the freezer. And so you could go there, and there are pledge books that they would have to memorize for their fraternity rituals would be there like nailed into the wall and stuff. We saw those.
Yeah,
Michael.
that was actually Yeah,
that was very
there was
weird.
at least some old looking books that you can tell had been there for a long time were nailed into like a wooden post.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we go to, and you can go online and look at, just Google Pike House, Texas. And there's a lot of weird photos on there. It's in the those books that every state has, like Weird New Jersey or Weird Texas or Weird California or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's one, the Weird Texas one has a few pages about someone that went there and wrote about it. But so in 85, they had these pledges, and then I think allegedly the lead frat guy killed himself because this happened. Was like the whole legend, right? And so we get to the second floor, and Brent, Michael's Kean, his buddy, we go to the right, and there's like and Michael goes to the left, and so we get to the first door, and it's like we open it. There's nothing in there, and then there's a noise all the way down to the right at the very end of the hall. And so I look over, and we don't see a person or anything, but we see this door that's on the right side of the hall, like open by itself, like fling open. And we're just kind of, freaked out and frozen. And then again, we're not seeing anything, but it sounds exactly like something's running past us, and it goes past Brent and I and down the hall. And that's, we just, we ran the hell out of there at that point. Michael, apparently, that's what I saw. Yeah. Michael?
I was like in the back. I remember we only had one flashlight, and I was like, I'm not letting go of this. So I was like in the back, holding up the rear. And then I didn't hear, but what sold me on it was Michael and Brent's look on their face. Like, it wasn't like a jokingly, oh crud, like anything like that. It was like a sincere, like, I want to get the fuck out of here right now. And so I was like, oh, I know that look. I'm going to get out of here right now anyway, too. And I just took off right along with them. But yeah, like I said, to be fair, I didn't see or hear anything, but they legit, Brent to this day will say he swears that he heard something, or, pretty much same story Michael had. And Michael's story's never changed.
And I've heard some other people having some similar stories. But this is kind of where it throws a whole wrench in the situation and kind of gets, I think, into some different paranormal aspects other than hauntings. Is that whole story I just told you about the frat and the insane asylum is all bullshit. None of that ever happened. And we thought all of that happened up until about a year ago when we started recording the show, and we researched the stuff like a whole lot more than just like the base stuff you could find online. And we were going back looking at like old timey records, and it was just like a hospital, and then it became like a frat house. There was no crazy stuff. There's no murdered pledges or anything, but these legends and these stories had been existing in Texas State, the Austin, San Marcos, community, I guess, for 20 plus years. And so I think that's entirely possible that, maybe that didn't happen, but I think, all the thoughts that went into it could possibly have created, something like a tulpa kind of a thing that made that kind of stuff going on there, even though it might not have happened originally. It was a very weird experience, especially finding out that the backstory was false, but then still having experienced what we did, and then other people having similar experiences. It was very, very, I'm not sure what I would think of it to this day, if it was a ghost or if it was some kind of a thought form thing or not, but it was very, definitely happened to us. It scared the shit out of me.
That's very interesting.
It could just be that a lot of people put a lot of energy into thinking about it. And, when you're a kid, I shouldn't say generally, maybe I was a weird kid, but I remember anytime I would hear about something weird or creepy, I would want to go and check it out. Like we've got there's this huge mansion that's in my hometown that has a lot of like really weird history behind it, and it's supposed to be haunted. And I always wanted to go in there as a kid, and we heard about this section of the woods that was haunted, and we would always hang out up there and try to freak each other out saying we saw things. But yeah. I think if that sort of thing perpetuates, you're creating the energy, and it's kind of like the energy is drawing in whatever these things are that reach out. And even though it's not a place where murders happened, the story gets around that it's haunted. So
yeah,
you're lifting up the rocks and you're seeing what's under there, really.
Not to be like too, but so many people have like relived that false memory in their heads. You know what I mean? Like they thought about like these kids being trapped and like seeing it play out like a horror movie in their mind by thinking about it. Thousands of people have done that. And then to have numerous encounters like the other story I keep alluding to was told to me in college by a guy who said he had been there, and I did not know him until a year after this had happened, and he brought it up to me, and I'm like, I had a weird experience this place. Like, you got to hear mine. And so his story was he had gone in their same place, and that they were downstairs in that kitchen, which I told you had the painted words on there after we'd ran out. And he said he was in there, like, some of his buddies, and they were just kind of, having some drinks and like messing around and trying to spook themselves. And so they heard some footsteps upstairs, and this is a place where I think a lot of kids go to, drink and, summon Satan or whatever the kids do these days. And they said that they heard the footsteps come down, and they're like, all right, someone upstairs, let's stay down here. And when they come down here, we'll scare the shit out of them. So they wait and they hear the footsteps come down. And then my buddy swore that this is what happened to him, was that the footsteps came down. He and all of his buddies were sitting down next to the island in the kitchen, so they couldn't be seen, so they could jump out, and that these footsteps walked in a circle around them, but there was no one there. And that's a pretty good one, I always thought.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to your story too, something unseen walking around. And like, I guess by tradition, right, when it comes to haunted places and ghost stories, they kind of just move into unoccupied places. So
yeah,
very well something could have just moved in there.
Yeah, and doesn't we have but when the ending of all this thing is you can't go there anymore, because I want to say 2 or 3 years after this happened, two brothers from Oklahoma came, and I might be exaggerating it a little bit, but I don't think so, is that they claimed they had been told in like dreams or something by demons or something to come burn that place down. And then they did. So that's even weirder. Like, it was some weird stuff surrounding the burning down of it with these two brothers, and they came here on like a mission to burn it down because they had been told to. And it's just, the whole thing is just
That's
a very
so weird.
odd story, man. And
just some kids summoning Satan.
Yeah,
to two dudes burning it down.
Yeah,
the American Horror Story Pike House version is going to be pretty awesome.
It would be. Yeah, I'd see that.
So when did you guys get into the true crime stuff? Because you guys cover a lot of really, and not just, your normal crime story that you hear on a lot of podcasts, but you guys picked the good stuff.
Michael?
Austin itself, I think it's kind of more what we have to choose from. It's just like Texas has a pretty insane history, and everything from like the Servant Girl Annihilator to the Angel of Death. Like we have the best serial killer, also metal band names of anybody. And it's some of the stories in Texas are just, unrelentingly brutal. Like the Servant Girl Annihilator, which was, never caught him. And it was arguably the first serial killer in American history that would, kill and just hack up women in Austin.
And some people believe he may have been Jack the Ripper after the Servant Girl Annihilator crimes. He moved to, or I guess the way the time frame worked out, once the Servant Girl Annihilator crimes ended, the Jack the Ripper crimes began. And some people make a correlation between the two.
And there's even some more connections, like people that were in Austin and were suspects were then found in London during the Jack the Ripper crimes. And it's really, really cool. But Austin has just had so many really brutal murders from the Servant Girl Annihilator to the yogurt shop murders, which I know has been covered by some other podcasts as well. But
that sounds so laughably mundane.
Oh, no, it's so bad.
I'm not familiar, but
yeah, it's like 4 girls. Yeah, 4 girls were murdered. Like teenage girls were murdered in a TCBY yogurt shop in the 80s in Austin. Like, and then it was like real. It was like the biggest case in like modern Austin, I guess.
Yeah.
And I never found the guys. The guys that they arrested and charged were later released, and like now they don't know who did it at all. But I think we're just kind of interested in that because of the same sense that I think both of us are always trying to look to get scared somehow, and I think just from just seeing some of the monstrous stuff that we've read about for the show, that maybe there wasn't really like some frat guys murdered in a freezer, but there was like a mass murderer in Austin stalking people. So it's like they're both scary. It's kind of like, but one's created and the other one is kind of displayed every single day, and you're just kind of observing. You have to like make up a story for it or kind of look back into a legend.
You don't lock your doors at night because you're afraid a ghost is going to come in.
Because they can come in through without locked doors.
But yeah, I think kind of for me with the true crime, it was just always something that's pretty interesting. When we talked about doing the podcast, I mean, Michael and I tossed around a few ideas. We talked about doing a sports one, talked about doing a political podcast, and I don't know how we settled on the paranormal, or I can't remember how we made that, this is what we're going to do. But we kind of tossed around, ideas. And we settled on that. Honestly, I think it was the name. We came up with a name. We're like, oh, this is the perfect podcast, paranormal activity type thing or whatever. And then we're like, well, we're going to cover true crime as well, just because, you got to.
Yeah, I don't get to listen to too many podcasts due to time restraints, but I always make sure to listen to you guys. And I love when you guys, no problem. I fucking love your guys' show. It's always a bonus.
The same here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Like y'all, they're like kind of what Michael was saying, getting into like the paranormal stuff. Like I found y'all, the podcast, fairly early on into my podcast listening, and I liked all this topics y'all covered. And this is probably about 2016, I guess, 2015. And
so he's an OG
definitely
listener.
Yeah, OG listener. And so like hearing y'all do it, and it's like one of the things that kind of made me want to do with Michael was, like, y'all seem like y'all are having fun. You know what I mean? And I thought like that would be kind of cool to do with your buddy and just talk about some of the crazy stuff, and also kind of have an excuse to, read books about aliens and, watch ridiculous documentaries. So that was like definitely part of the thing that led into it. And then also listening to a bunch of, like serial killer podcasts and stuff like that. I hadn't really been into true crime until fairly recently before the show. Michael had always been more into the true crime side of things, and then I kind of got into it fairly, about around the same time I started listening to podcasts. But I was definitely more of a paranormal fan to get started with. But I've definitely found my own little interest ways in the true crime area too. It's been fun and gory and depressing, sad.
I used to study the hell out of serial killers, and after like 4 or 5 years, I had to give that up.
No, yeah, that's just like sometimes doing the show, like. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I am the main researcher on the show. And being that Michael mainly just stuff, he does the good ones lately.
Occasionally I'll do it. Give me a little bit of credit.
He's been doing lately. He's been doing a lot of them. But
once every 10 episodes, I'll put one in.
Yeah, so like I had to read like the Yogurt Shop Murders book and the serial killer, like a bunch of serial killer books, and then it's really depressing pretty quick.
Yeah, you can always tell when Michael's like really deep into some depressing serial killer stuff, because the text conversations we have back and forth are like, kind of dark, bro. You need to go watch some football or something.
That's the only thing I don't really like about it, is because it's hard to. It's a lot, I think, like easier just kind of to not get depressed when you're reading about aliens and legends. Because as much as I believe in a vast majority of them, it's still not, like someone's that could be in your house right now.
Yeah, right.
Right. I remember when I was doing research for the show we did on the Mata Mortos murder cult. I read the book. I think it's called Cauldron of Blood, but holy fuck, man. Just like some of the shit the cartel got up to, and then the cult itself just kidnapping people, torturing them, and then eventually murdering them.
Yeah.
And then using their fucking brains and blood and shit. And oh my god.
What is this again? I need to write this down.
It's
what episode?
Fucked if I know, man. But you guys aren't familiar with that story?
I think in Mexico.
Yeah, it was a kid from Texas who went down to Mexico.
They kidnapped. I believe it's El Padrino was the guy's nickname. Yeah, and Church of Misery, the Japanese stoner metal band that does the intro song we use, also has a song about this.
Oh, really?
This case. I think that's how I found out about it, actually.
Oh, no shit.
And look up El Padrino, Church of Misery, and it's awesome. They use like a lot of their songs open with actual news segment audio. It's pretty cool. But Michael, yeah, there was like a UT medical student that went to Mexico to party for spring break with like 10 other people, and he just went down an alley one day and no one ever saw him again. And then like Mike was saying, was they just used his brains and his like body parts for like voodoo stuff, basically, like Santeria stuff.
It was Santeria.
Yeah.
What? All right. We can move on with the show, but I'm definitely gonna listen to the Whatcast for that episode.
Yeah, I got a book at a very young age called Blood Letters and Bad Men.
That sounds cool. That sounds badass.
That sounds like my first emo band name.
It was literally an A through Z encyclopedia of serial killers from like the Pilgrims till now.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I read that thing cover to cover a few times, and then pretty shortly after having to break out into other books to read about it, I was like, yeah, I got to take a break. Because, I was a younger dumb kid, and you go on fucking shitty websites and watch people get their heads chainsawed off. And
you're like, Thanks, Kazaa.
So, yeah, more about your guys' podcast. How long have you guys been doing it now?
50 episodes in, and we started recording like 2 years ago, about 2 years ago.
2 years? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, right?
I think a year. Anyway, it's about a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, because we started it in August 2016.
That's awesome.
This is the first episode, I think, yeah.
It's been fun, though. I mean, I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool excuse to do research. I'm probably too lazy to be researching any of the stuff that I research to do for the show.
Well, not only that, but I mean, how many other times you get to sit around and talk to your buddies about aliens or ghosts or this crazy serial killers or, all these like true crime stories or whatever. For me, that's what it's been about. Is just kind of like having fun with it. And then, as long as I'm having fun, I'll keep doing it. Yeah,
that's the main thing is just have fun with it and, make it for yourself. And if other people like it, that's fantastic. But just the main goal for us is just to make each other laugh, I guess, and also have an excuse to read alien books as much as I want.
Man, you guys are admirable. I do it for the chicks and the money.
Hell yeah. That just comes secondary.
Yeah.
I mean that's all I'm in it for. Once the money stops coming and the ladies dry up, I'm out. I'm out of the podcasting game.
I've always liked the way Michael's described it, and I've heard him say it a few times. It's like the punk music of podcasting, kind of what we do or whatever.
We have like a basic $50 mic. That's all we have. We had a $10 mic, but it was really bad. And just record it in the closet.
The studio, Michael.
Yeah. The Alamo.
My studio is also my kitchen, so I understand.
My studio used to be my kids' room, but I've now moved into the living room.
Oh, shit. Moving on up.
Well, I'm in my kids' room right now, so.
So do you guys have any favorite cryptids from Texas? Any ones that stand out to you more than others?
Oh, Michael, I feel like.
I think we definitely have Lechuza and La Llorona. Well, I guess La Llorona is more of a spirit, I suppose. Yes,
but
Lechuza, Lechuza is our girl. She's Michael, you got some Lechuza stories. Lechuza, you explain Lechuza.
Okay, I put me on the spot like this. Lechuza,
Spanish for owl.
Well, there's that too. So, I guess I'll just explain kind of the story of what it is and how I heard about it the first time. So. One time we had a little buddy.
Explain what it is. Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I mean, Lechuza. I mean, it's just I've heard a couple different things. I've heard it's like an owl-like creature that's just extremely large and it goes after people. Yada, typical cryptid story.
Thunderbird.
Exactly. Yeah, something like that. And then the scarier version that I kind of heard about is essentially a flying woman. She had it was like the body of an owl. But she had the face of a woman, and like her only goal was to kidnap little kids. And I came across the story because I had a little buddy. We were young kids, and a little buddy that was spending the night with us. He was a cousin or a neighbor. I can't remember what it was exactly. But anyway, he woke up that next morning, and he's telling me about this creature he saw that night. He's telling me that it's a lechuza, and how it's this creature that he had to curse and scare it away and threw his lighter at it and all this stuff. And I was like, what is this? And so I kind of started asking my mom, and she started telling me the story. Essentially, like what all parents do. It's a ghost that takes bad kids if you're not careful. But yeah, that's always what the lechuza is. But what if we kind of discovered the real origin story? I don't remember as well as Michael does.
I'm trying to remember it's kind of been going around like in Mexican folklore. And even like some other similar ones, like we kind of try to find some of these cryptids, how it shows up in like Tex-Mex culture, but it also is related to like Lilith, kind of the flying demons and flying creatures from around the world like that. And so a lot of the same mythologies kind of all add up. But with her, specifically with this variation, it's a like a witch who is, I believe, how would you describe it, Michael? Like she's trying to remain young. Was that it? Or was it a lot of these, the Mexican
It depends on which version you're reading.
Yeah, there you go. There's a lot of different versions.
Some of it's trying to remain young. Some of it's like she's like the possessed, or a scorned woman who's been possessed.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Like a woman scorned is one of the ones, and that they'll come try and get men who are, wandering away or some out late,
who'd been
drunk
drinking,
men specifically. Yes. But don't worry, guys, because there is a surefire way to protect you from lechuza, and that is by cursing at it and swearing at it, because it for some reason cannot deal with that.
Nope, her virgin ears.
That's what
so weird. A monster that is afraid of swear words.
No, yeah.
No, don't say fuck at me. Please, no.
So yeah, there's always some weird, with almost all these folklore stories, like some kind of moral tale, at the end. But with that one, like I don't know what it is.
Don't be a bad kid. Don't be a drunk man out late at night.
But then defeating it with like you can swear though.
Yeah, practice your profanity.
Yeah, like usually it's like stay home, trust your parents.
Nope, just hang out with sailors.
Hey.
Now, you guys being from Texas, was there a certain point in time where chupacabras really took off?
Oh, 100%. So I remember my mom telling me about the time she saw a chupacabra, and she was out with my stepdad, and he had to go take a leak somewhere. So they parked somewhere. And then she said she's looking out the passenger window. She sees something and she can't tell what it is. And then she sees it hop away, and she came home and she was like, we just saw a chupacabra. And I was probably like 13, 14 at the time, so old enough to be like, lady, you are full of shit. She was like, no, I saw a chupacabra, and she'd always talked about it and joked about it anyway. But so I think there might have been a couple other things in the Austin area that people were like, what is that? What was that? Well, long story short, about a week later, I saw in the newspaper that wasn't a kangaroo. What's a wallaby? Is that like a miniature kangaroo?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, wallabies they're pretty similar to a kangaroo.
Yeah, but just smaller. It had escaped from the Austin Zoo, and that's what people had seen was that little creature. But I mean, you're in Austin, Texas, so you don't expect to see a kangaroo or a wallaby. So of course, you're going to assume, oh, yeah, that's for sure a chupacabra right there. And, that was the chupacabra sighting in Austin. Turned out to be a wallaby. But when that was going around, I can remember thinking, like, hearing a lot about the chupacabra. After my mom believed she saw it, she started telling all the stories of the family members who have come across it and whatnot. But yeah.
It's definitely, like, one of the most popular Texan cryptids for sure. Like, I know that's always kind of the first one I think people think of down here is the chupacabra. So that's always like a really famous one. And so that one's cool. That one's also another one.
The younger crowd may not know, but I feel like people our age, in their 30s or so, early 30s, late 20s, I feel like if you said chupacabra, like from that generation and up, they would know. But these kids these days don't have any respect for cryptids.
No, they don't. It's weird for me because I always grew up with a completely different type of chupacabra than the canine one that's seen around Texas.
What is yours? Oh, go on.
It's kind of like the whole folklore thing as well. You know, your parents would tell you that chupacabras would get you, but there's I had family who lived in Puerto Rico, and the whole chupacabra is like a little lizard type thing. It was never a dog.
It has wings or sails on its back, right?
Yeah, I've seen pictures like that, or the illustrations, I guess I should say, not pictures.
Yeah, so in the late 90s when the big chupacabras boom happened, I mean, it's all the ones from Texas were this canine thing, and I was like, that's not a fucking chupacabra, that's fucking mange, you dummy.
Yeah,
it's like coyote with mange.
Fucked up dogs.
Fake ass chupacabra out of here.
Yeah, I always found that interesting, but as soon as the Texas chupacabras got popular, the lizard-like one kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always remember it being... I didn't know about the lizard one until fairly recently, but I'd always seen it as being like the goat sucker or whatever, you know, but I always had seen it more as like just a giant, almost like a vampire dog. It's kind of what I always pictured it as before I'd learned about the reptilian version, I suppose.
Mike, what was the first chupacabras you heard of, the dog or the lizard?
Which one?
I think it was. Yeah, are you talking to me?
Yeah, I was like, which?
I was, and I was hoping you'd catch on to it. You did pretty good job. Good job.
So me or
yes, you.
The first one that I heard of was this weird jumping lizard creature thing.
Oh, you heard of that one first?
Yeah, that was in the early days of when little Mikey was a paranormal researcher as a teenager. He read a lot of God, I don't even like the Shadowlands.net or just
yeah. That's old school.
Shadowlands. That's how we found the Pike House and those other like places we would go, like we're saying nameless, the Pike House was on Shadowlands.
Wow.
That was a fantastic website.
Yeah, Shadowlands was great. But I remember people would post, like, they had a section for people to post their own sightings. And I remember reading about the chupacabra stuff. And it was like people that had witnessed it jumping out of their chicken coop. And it would, like, jump literally over the fence. And it was like a 8-foot fence or something. And it just kind of, like, glides over the fence. And it looked like this weird lizard creature. And some say it had spines on its back. Yeah. Others say it had wings or sails. But it certainly wasn't a dog with mange.
It's weird. I wonder why it got the same name then, since they're such drastically described creatures.
I have a friend, Carl, who he does the Sloth podcast, the Sloth Man Prophecies, which is a very good podcast as well. But he's an illustrator, and he actually wrote a children's book that's the ABCs of cryptids. I think it's called Babies First Cryptids. And so it's like A is for like alien, B is for Bigfoot, C is for chupacabra. And the chupacabra, he drew the lizard one. And so when I first saw that, I was kind of confused because I was expecting the vampire wolf, the Texas version.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe the lizard is the more widely accepted, I guess.
I guess so. I don't hear much of the lizard one anymore.
I think a lot of it came because when the chupacabra attack started happening in Texas, there were a lot of people that were seeing these mangy coyotes. And in truth, a lot of those cases probably could be attributed to coyotes getting scared off in the middle of their kill. So you just see the bites and a chicken, you look at it wrong and you're going to break its neck. So if a dog with mange or a coyote with mange were to bite it, it would leave the canine marks in it, and then the chicken's neck would be broken and the thing was chased off. And then it's dark out. It looks all scaly and creepy looking, and thus the Texas chupacabra is born.
Do you guys remember that? I think it was like police dash cam footage of that running supposed chupacabras.
Yeah, the coyote with mange.
See, to me, I've seen coyotes with mange. I follow old Lauren Coleman on Twitter, so people will send him pictures all the time, and sometimes he'll retweet it. And I've seen some pretty gnarly pictures. I actually had my brother-in-law send me a picture that he got from his friend that he took while he was hiking. and I sent it to Lauren Coleman, and he definitely said it was mange. But it just with that dash cam footage, even its body structure was different. And mange can get fucking crazy. It can really destroy an animal. But that dash cam footage, I don't know. I watched some special, probably Unsolved Mysteries or something like that, where they were just analyzing even its like hind leg length and stuff. It was just all messed up.
Yeah, but you got to consider when in really bad cases of mange, their skin becomes really stiff and tough. So it's going to make their ability to run decrease, and they're going to have like a weird movement because their skin's all stiff and shit.
Change the way they run or walk.
Yeah, exactly. So you know how dogs, their feet, they bend, but like when they're in relaxed position, they look like they have big rabbit's feet for their hind legs. And if it was all stiff, you're looking at it's going to take on a different type of proportion than it would a regular running dog. Well, and who's to say it doesn't have other injuries on top of the mange as well?
Well, I want to believe.
Well, you can't.
Well, when I first heard about the chupacabra, it was the lizard one. And it was kind of right before, like, the Texas chupacabras got really popular and that took off. Like, I'd say, like, the late 90s, but I kind of chuckled at it, you know. There's, like, I don't think there's, like, with the lizard one, he's supposed to be able to run really fast, too. Sometimes, you know, people will call it, like, the blur or something like that, because you can't really ever get a good look at it. But I remember my uncle had called my dad from Puerto Rico just, like, once every 3 years, like he normally does. And it was weird to hear about this lizard creature that would suck the blood of animals and be able to jump and run really fast. But I remember my dad telling me that his brother was telling him that there had been chupacabras attacks on shit like chickens, but it started to move to like domesticated animals, like people's dogs and cats and shit like that. And I know I've said it on the show before, but he said they had the military out there.
Yeah.
That's wild. I was like, whoa, fuck. I remember that scared me a little bit. Made me glad I didn't live in Puerto Rico.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen any kind of a cryptid, but it'd be interesting.
It would. I've never had any cryptid type experience. I've had plenty of ghost experiences with that type of stuff, but the cryptids almost interest me more.
Yeah, I would more than seeing a UFO or anything. I'd love to see some crazy monster creature thing.
Except a dog man. I'm good on that.
No, even dog man. Dog man and I will fucking high five in the wilderness, play fetch. I'll scratch him behind his ears. We'll have a grand old time.
And then he'll disembowel you and eat you alive through your asshole.
No way.
That sounds like a party.
The dog's like, you know what? I'm not going to eat you. I'm just going to keep licking. And Mike's going to be like, yeah, you do that.
Yeah, you do that. I'll be over here eating a sandwich.
Good boy.
I don't even need to add the salami.
That's horrible.
Hey, man. Dog man needs love, too.
See, but you're not licking his asshole. He'd be licking yours. You're just using the poor thing.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not forcing him. You know, if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to. It's not like I'm saying, "Hey, my love is contingent upon analingus."
You know, you're gonna put like a glob of peanut butter up your butt before you go out there.
I mean, I usually do that before I leave the house.
Exactly.
So you never know. You never know when you're gonna need it.
Bets.
Scouts motto, be prepared.
Well, I was looking up cryptids from Texas, just in prep for you guys coming on, and I came across something I've never heard of. It was called the Houston Horror. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Real quick, horror or horror?
Horror, sorry. Okay. I'm sure there's plenty of Houston horrors.
I
never have.
Related to the the Texas Batman sighting?
Yes.
Oh, well then yes, we have heard.
I had never heard of that, and one thing I loved about it is that it's one of these one-off cryptids. There wasn't a lot of sightings. Those are always my favorite.
That one's an interesting one.
It is. For anybody who has never heard of it, it took the first sighting, the major sighting, I guess, took place June 18th, 1953. I guess 3 neighbors were sitting outside at about 2:30 a.m., and they were just trying to escape the sweltering summer heat that Michael was telling us about earlier. But they said that they saw a shadow of something flutter by at the edge of the lawn of the house that they were at, mind you. So this is pretty fucking close. And as they all looked up to focus on this thing, they said pretty much hopped into a tree. And this is what I found weird about it, because of course, when you look this up, you'll have more luck looking up the Houston Batman. But they said that it had gigantic bat wings, and oddly enough, they said it was wearing an all-black skin-tight outfit.
Yeah.
And it was surrounded by a yellow glowing haze, which is pretty weird to me. That made me think about another cryptid. But they said it was 6.5 feet tall. And I heard a doctor say that for it to have proportionate bat wings, the wingspan had to be like something like 16 feet.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But they said it stood there for maybe 30 seconds. And they said as this glow dissipated, the creature disappeared as well. And when it was completely gone, they heard flapping sounds going towards the houses across the street. And another weird thing about this case is that after the flaps, there was a giant flash of white light, and the light took off like a rocket. Now, for me, I mean, like a lot of people link this sighting to Mothman. They're saying maybe it was a Texas Mothman. Mm-hmm. But for one thing, all these people, these 3 neighbors, described the exact same thing, and they stuck with their story. And even with the Flatwoods Monster sighting, there's like, what, Mike, 5 people who saw it on that incident? My Mike, Whatcast Mike?
Yeah, it was 2 brothers, the May brothers, and then one of their friends saw the initial object in the sky, and they said it landed on the property of a local farmer. So they went to their mom, and she went with all 3 of the kids to go check out this thing. And apparently, I think another local kid came, and then National Guardsmen joined them as well. So I think it was like 6 people that saw it after it had crashed, I guess, if you want to call it a crash or a landing, whatever it did.
Yeah, but didn't their stories vary? I mean, when they all were questioned by police,
it varied a little bit. So one person said that its head was pointed, and it looked like it was wearing a pointed hood around the face. And another person said that its head resembled an ace of spades. So I guess just spade shaped. And I think the mother, Mrs. May, was the only one to report that it had small arms that it was holding out in front of it.
Hug me.
Yeah, like little T-Rex arms.
Yeah.
No.
But I liked how all 3 of these people described the same thing. You know,
but they basically described the same thing, and they said that there was a mist that made them feel sick, and as the being came up, there was a red glowing mist around it, and it hissed at them and kind of lunged towards them, which caused them all to run away screaming like a bunch of little girls.
Didn't their dog die from that weird poopy mist?
I don't recall.
I hope not.
I don't remember hearing about the death of a dog, but it's all irrelevant anyway. It was ruled to be barn owls and a aircraft navigation beacon and a meteor, all corresponding at this magical moment to create a 10-foot monster
with some flares.
Y'all always taught me to never trust the owls.
No, you can't. It's a very important lesson to remember.
Well, then we had that guy on who wrote the book about the owls, and I was like, holy shit, we hit it on the head.
Yeah. we knew about it all along.
What do you guys think about the Mothman connection to it? Because they describe bat wings, not moth wings or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But then again, like the witnesses of Mothman, I don't remember too many specific.
They didn't really say that for Mothman. They didn't say it was moth wings.
Yeah, but they didn't say they were bird wings or bat wings, even though they did originally call it the Birdman. So maybe it did have bird-like wings, but
I think she said it was like featherless wings, but not like a bat's wings.
A pterodactyl.
Yeah.
I'm not too knowledgeable on the Mothman.
She said it spun, I think, to take off like a whirly bird.
Really?
So, Tx Files, Michael. The Mothman is about Richard Gere put her gerbil up his butt, and that's the entire story.
Okay, all right.
It's a magical tale of love and struggle and constipation.
Beautiful. I love that. The Houston Batman story is really cool. It like the Mothman. What I first thought, I hadn't really thought of the Mothman connection, but that's probably more correct than what I'd thought of earlier, which was it had reminded me of Spring Heel Jack from London, like that the Victorian times.
Definitely.
I got a bigger Spring Heel Jack feeling than I did a Mothman feeling. But with all the lights in the taking off like a jet really made me think of Flatwoods, like maybe a part mechanical creature.
Or maybe it's just a guy like the Spring Heel Jack, the family that developed that suit this whole time since the Spring Heel Jack has just been working to improve upon that.
Generation to generation.
And eventually they immigrated to America and settled in Texas. And this one mad scientist is like, you know what?
Through Project Paperclip, built a jetpack.
I'm doing this. I'm fucking
this
doing
be an
it.
awesome comic book right here.
And then he takes his magical Batman suit out for a night on the town. He gets spotted and he's like, oh shit. So then he buries it again until what, the 90s? Is that when he was sighted again?
Mothman or the Batman?
The Batman.
Well, see, that's the other story I have. It's just the only date I got on it was the 90s, but this cryptozoologist and author dude named Ken Gerard, he was told a similar story by friends in the 90s that took place at the Houston's Bel Air Theater. And they said several employees there reported seeing, quote, a gigantic winged helmeted man crouching on a rooftop trying to hide. And again, we come with a helmet.
See, that's his son. His son
I want to take a while.
Took it another step further.
Point out here is that we're talking about cool technology and stuff. What else is in Houston is NASA?
Yeah. There we go. They're testing. They're giving bats jetpacks and skin tight black outfits
and helmets.
But doesn't that point to like something like Flatwoods more to you? Because that's what I thought immediately. I was like, because Flatwoods, when you can see someone will draw him with like some type of spade type fan coming off his shoulders behind a round head, but then sometimes he has a helmet on. It's after Spring Heel Jack. After reading the second account, it just really leaned to Flatwoods for me.
Yeah, I need to look. Some of the stuff. It's a very weird case because a lot of it kind of fits into, a lot of other, cryptid kind of sightings like Flatwoods or Spring Heel or even like Lechuza, kind of like we were talking about earlier. All these different ones that just kind of vanish in ways they shouldn't be, or have these weird wingspans and humanoid features. Yeah, you can't trust them.
This is going to be the biggest owl one, though. Mothman was like, what, 6 feet? Batman's got him beat by a half a foot, though.
Yeah.
Flatwoods is 10.5.
Oh, there you go.
You guys know your cryptids.
Well, what if you saw a 10-foot fucking bird? If it was a sandhill crane, that's not right either.
That's scary.
Yeah. I'd be like, okay, it's not a Mothman. Cool. I'm reporting a 10-foot tall fucking bird, asshole. How about that?
Well, remember when we had Mike Cleland on, though, and he was talking about how a lot of these abduction experiences or interactions, people will see these strange, like 6 foot tall owls. And there's no owl on Earth that's 6 feet tall that has a 6 foot tall body. But people will be seeing these owls that are like man-sized, just kind of chilling in the road
before abduction,
or they'll see a UFO and then they'll go down the road a ways and then they'll see like this big owl just standing in the middle of the road, and it'll kind of like as the car's approaching, it'll kind of like flutter a few feet away and just keep doing that as the car approaches. And one person said that they had them on their property, just kind of chilling on the fences. These huge, I think that those ones were like 4 foot tall owls, but still, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And he proposes that it's a screen memory, and you're really seeing something that's beyond your understanding. So in order to kind of make things fit into your brain, they attach something somewhat familiar to their appearance so that you see an owl. Even though it's a large owl, it's still an owl. So like, oh, it's just an owl. Maybe I was just misjudging the size. I don't know.
I think a fucking 10-foot tall owl's just as scary as an alien.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah, I'm not liking that.
I would say it's more scary. Like, I'd rather see a gray than a 10-foot tall owl.
Me too.
Yeah,
I feel like at least I could try to communicate with a gray, whereas a 10-foot owl would just eat me alive and it would hurt really bad.
My caveman brain is like, I could take a little gray alien, 10-foot owl. Yeah, run.
Exactly. The alien's going to stick something up my ass. The owl's going to peck my fucking eyes out.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to be alive when that happens. No.
I bet you're not going to put peanut butter on your butthole before it does that, too. It's just you, Mike.
You never know. It might protect me.
What if owls are allergic to peanut butter? Good point. You know, got to cover all your bases. I like it.
Yeah. What if they just don't like sweet, nutty things?
We'll try the peanut butter and then squat into some bird seed or like dry corn. It'll attract it better.
No, that'll just get crows up my ass. I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound fun.
You could land a 10-foot tall crow, though.
Then I could ride it.
I'm just going to hold a hummingbird feeder out of my ass.
You can get some hummingbirds, some butterflies.
You'd be a hit at parties, man.
Hey.
Just fill it full of beer when you're at the parties.
Oh.
Tell them only chicks can drink out of it.
It's 2018, so.
Yeah, man.
There's worse shit on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
We always talk about how all these types of things slow down. The UFO videos slow down. Good cryptid footage slows down. What would you guys like to see a resurgence in? Haunting stuff? Weird animals?
Yeah. I'm going to go with haunting right off the bat. Going through a lot of the stories, like, I think I finally found a good book for it, but a lot of like the haunted stories that we've come across, because I have a couple, like ghost books, haunted Texas books, and a lot of them are, they're interesting, but they're not really scary. And, they're like, oh, well, something moved, someone died here, but there's not a whole bunch of like, like Amityville or like, poltergeist, scary aspects of things. And so I'd like to see, okay, maybe I shouldn't be saying, more like scary accounts like that, where people are, I don't know how to say it, but putting people kind of like in danger or something with like an Amityville spirit, some kind of another horror story like that, like we haven't really seen. That'd be what I would prefer, because we get, pretty good alien stories fairly regularly, I think, whether it be abductees or hybrids or whatever they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But, a good haunting story is, it's something good, I think. It's something perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the hauntings too. And I was kind of, as Michael was talking, I was kind of thinking this in my head. I feel like space is kind of cool right now with like guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson and dudes like that, and always talking about space and stuff like that. So when people start to take a general interest in it, aliens kind of come right along with it. And so aliens, like everyone's talking about that, seems to be more reoccurring or whatnot. But I feel like there haven't been any good tales of any hauntings or anything like that. So let's bring some hauntings back.
Yeah, it seems like with all the reality TV shows, I mean, everybody says there's no good footage, so humans as a race have made people go into these supposedly haunted places with fucking cameras, and they still can't get anything really good.
Yeah, it would just be nice to have, like, there's even some, like, the famous old stuff, like, regardless of if it's 100% real or not, like in the Amityville video, where, and not the Amityville video, the Amityville in the original investigation, where you see that the boy looking around the corner, I think that's Amityville.
Yeah.
Like that's just a good, scary photo, regardless of what it was. You see that, and it's like, oh shit, there's someone right there. And that's unnerving. So some more stuff like that, I think. But now this is 40 years later, and it's a lot easier to get fake stuff like that than it would be.
That's the thing. And that's, yeah. I think that's why we're losing a lot of the credible footage, because
it gets lost.
It just gets lost in and you get stuff that looks amazing, but the better it looks, the more likely it is to be fake, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Do you guys share that opinion? Is it going to take something super duper as far as evidence goes to start believing in something like that these days?
Well, maybe like on a mass scale. I mean, I think I'm pretty much, a fair believer in most of the ghosts and stuff. But kind of like we were saying, like with all these shows that go in there all the time, Like there should be some more like, recent really good footage, but also at the same time, I think because of the ability to alter these photos like we can now, and after like a long history of kind of the paranormal community being hoaxed and screwed over by a lot of times, I think a lot of us are gonna be like so cynical that like even if there was something that was undeniably true, I think a lot of those people won't believe it regardless. Like if Trump came out tomorrow and like had an alien next to him and was like, all right, here we go, right here, aliens are real. See, I guarantee you there'd be like half of the people in Above Top Secret forums wouldn't believe it still.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's hard to figure out now, especially finding any kind of footage, because it seems like every time there seems to be something good, like a few days later you find out it's fake or it's something else. And with ghosts, that's I don't know. I just kind of miss those really good scary ones that are hard to copy like they used to be.
The last good ghost footage I saw, I don't know if you guys have seen it, Mike. I think I've sent it to you, where it was during a news interview about this little kid that was being haunted by this ghost. And while they're interviewing this kid just gets yanked back like 5 feet, and it happens like 5 or 6 times during this interview.
I haven't seen that.
Really?
No, not at all.
I'll send it to you guys on Twitter. It's really weird.
It's
footage.
pretty weird. Yeah, it is.
There's one time where he's sitting in a chair, and it's not like the chair falls back. Something grabs his shirt and pulls him backwards over this chair. And he doesn't even fall to the ground. It's like, something's holding him up while it's doing it.
Okay. Weird. I look forward to this.
Yeah. Other than that, that's the last good ghost stuff. The last good UFO stuff.
What was that video we saw? I don't remember if we actually ended up using it as part of a show or not. But it was that one, the person was going through the house and there was that huge figure that kind of like ducks through the doorway.
Oh yeah, Barton Mansion Demon. We covered that like on our 3rd show.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit was scary as hell, man.
It wasn't. It was on a TV show where I think it didn't even make it through a season, which sucked because they did a good job. They grabbed like some of Hollywood's best special effects guys, and it wasn't just all makeup artists. One dude was a makeup artist. One dude was like a robotics guy. But what they do is take supposedly real paranormal footage and try to recreate it. And these guys were the state of the art shit, and they couldn't recreate that thing. And what I loved about that case, the Barton Mansion Demon, is that they interviewed one of the kids who saw it, and they actually interviewed his pastor, and he said that fucked up that kid. He was was thinking about leaving the church and is still in therapy and all that stuff. So that footage is creepy too, because the ear of that creature even moves. It didn't seem like a mask at all. Have you guys seen the Barton Mansion Demon footage?
I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm not sure if I can remember if I've seen that or not.
Yeah,
I've never heard it or seen it.
Yeah, look it up now. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. It is weird footage. It's kind of cheesy. They're walking through an abandoned house, and they get to the top of some stairs, and they turn around to start walking down a hallway, but there's a door there. And as soon as the camera gets there, this huge fucking thing that's wearing like a black cloak, it's even holding a lantern, but it walks.
It seems too convenient for me, though.
Yeah.
But then again, I believe the Pedersen Gimlin footage is real, and that's about as convenient as you can get.
Yeah.
What's the name of the video?
The Barton Mansion Demon.
It's Barton, like Barton Springs, Mike. I'm looking at a picture of it right now. Ooh,
Isn't that fucked up?
Yeah. It looks like a Nosferatu type looking thing.
Yeah. William Dafoe walking through there.
Yeah. Anytime, obviously we do a podcast about true crime and paranormal activity, and I keep saying paranormal stuff, excuse me. And there's a part of me that like wants to believe, but I cannot tell you why. But anytime I look at a photo or a video, I instantly go to like, this is fake, and I have to prove it's fake. Like I look for anything
I do the
and
same
everything.
exact thing.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I want this to be real. And I think that's why, so I can rule out, okay, and then once I come to the conclusion, okay, this is why it's fake because of that I don't believe it as much. But I hate myself for doing it, but I can't not do it. I always do it. I always like, oh, this is fake, and here's why, and I try to find all the little holes or mess ups or whatever in it. I just can't be happy, guys.
I do the same now since I started doing the podcast. Anytime I found some footage like that, I loved it. I just wanted to see it. I didn't care if it was true. It was cool. But now it's got to really impress me. I got to be able to say, well, I can't really explain that. So I want to look into this further. But like a few years ago, there's that woolly mammoth footage of something crossing some lake. And I showed it to a buddy of mine. He was like, that's clearly a bear. And he pointed it out. And I was like, okay, I can see that. But I think it's good to have that attitude.
The one in Russia, it was a bear with a salmon hanging out of its mouth.
Yeah. That's one thing that sucked too, is I got a lot of friends who are all into the paranormal and have had a lot of crazy experiences. And when we started the show, I was like, you got to come on and talk about that. And a good 90% of them were like, fuck no way. I was like, really? I did not expect that. They're like, why would you think I would do that? I was like, oh, why wouldn't you dickhead?
I'm a professional. I have to work with people. I don't want them thinking that I believe this.
Do you guys ever see investigating places again at some point?
I mean, first of all, I would say to call them investigations would be very, very generous. But I would like to go to any of those places again. I don't really know where, because we kind of went to most of them that we could find back in the day around these areas.
I've always tossed this one idea. There's this place, I do not remember the road, but it's generally near us, about 40, 50 miles away from where we're at. So we could make it in, an evening. And I wish I could remember more information on it. But essentially, it's this stretch of road where all this crazy stuff has happened. A murdering here, a sighting there, and stuff like that. And I always thought it would be fun for Michael and I to record a podcast. It probably sound like shit because we're in a car. But to record an episode while we're going to each one of those locations and kind of checking it out and seeing what we saw or whatever, and kind of just talking about the story while we're actually going to those places and being there. Michael and I, we actually went to, he was talking about the yogurt shop murders, and we went to the building where it used to be. And I guess that's kind of different because it's not a paranormal story. It's a place where 4 young women were murdered. But there was like a creepy vibe there. Even it's now a nail salon place, but just going there, it was kind of like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is nice that the ladies who run the nail salon, there's like a little memorial in the parking lot, where the girls are murdered, and the ladies who run the nail salon go out there and like burn incense and do stuff for them every single day. And like I read about that in the book that we used, who killed these girls for the source material. And we went out there, and I've been back a few times. Every time I've been there, they do that. So that's cool.
That's awesome.
But as far as like going places, there's been a couple places. Like I wish I could remember that highway so I could be more descriptive. But there's that highway. We covered Devil's Backbone, and I had a friend of mine who just called me the other day, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I have a great Devil's Backbone story for you." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "I was talking to a guy. I was telling him about y'all's show, and he told me about experience he had out there." And then I was like, "All right, tell me." And then he was like, "I gotta go. I'll tell you next time I see you." And I haven't seen him in probably about 3 or 4 months now. So like every time I think of it, I'm like, I need to call him. I need to figure out this story. But yeah, like going to a place like that, I think would be fun to like rehash that episode maybe and just seeing what's out there, just for the fun of it, if nothing else.
Yeah, there's got to be some cracking down on allowing people to go to some of those places. I mean, Anthony and Lucy from Paranormal Review Radio, they used to go all the time, and it would just like a month would go by and they're like, yeah, they closed that place to the public.
Oh.
Mike, is that place that's now a bar still available to go and visit or investigate at least?
It's an open, I don't know about investigate, but it's an open restaurant and bar. You're talking about Beardsley Castle?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
In Little Falls, New York.
Oh. That's kind of far for us, but we'll try.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now, something I want to start asking everybody who's into the paranormal that we have on, what do you guys think about the Phoenix Lights footage? Because I hear about Trump wanting to start a fucking space army.
Yeah.
And I there's a lot of talk about disclosure going on now. Do you think we're going to see disclosure? And what did you guys think about the Phoenix Lights? Because if that's not UFO footage, we're not going to fucking get any.
Not to get too far. Hold on, Mike. Not to get too far from the Phoenix Lights or your question, but Michael and I have been discussing a lot, and obviously we're not the only ones. Like, I firmly believe something is coming down the pipe as far as information about UFOs or extraterrestrials or something like that, because I've never been or I've never seen, and I'd probably say I've kept up with it since about high school. So for the last 10 years, I've never seen so much stuff where the actual government saying, hey, we don't know what this is, or look at this, what we found. There's this planet that's so far, and stuff like that, where it's not just some funky website or some guy on coast to coast. It's like the actual U.S. government saying, we have this and we have that. And it's not a total confirmation, but I feel like I've never seen our government talk about it so much like they have at this point in time. And the part of me is like, or there's a part of me that's like, okay, just rubbing my hands together, like, all right, what's coming out? What are you guys getting us ready for? And then Michael, he was telling me about, like, he's much more into this than I am, but like how that's kind of the way this stuff comes out. And how would you explain it, Michael?
It's kind of like, I think the term's like soft disclosure, where they kind of do little bits and pieces here and there, and then when the Vulcans show up, it's like, oh, there you go. We knew it all along.
Everyone's not freaking out. They're kind of just, letting our guard down a little bit at a time. And so when it finally happens, everyone's out, anarchy!
Yeah. I think I think we're going to find out sooner or later. Like, I'll get to the Phoenix Lights in a little bit, but I think that this is the recent disclosures we're seeing with these, government, these aircraft videos, and you couple that with the Space Force that our brave heroes will be serving in, that a lot of these are really just excuses to ramp up the spending for that. And I think like the Space Force, it's going to be used to, it just seems like a perfect way to, while we're looking for space stuff, we happen to find some guys or something. Like, it just seems like a way that it's just right around the corner to me. I just don't see, I really think the Space Force stuff, I'm not saying this is like Trump's master plan or anything, or even he knows. Someone has probably just told him, like, hey, Space Force. He's like, yeah, that's cool. But I think that they probably are going to be part of the disclosure once we get to it, I think. Oh, and then with the Phoenix Lights, I mean, that's by far the best UFO footage ever. I think, it's unreal what that captured.
I hate when they said that it was flares. I was like, are you guys really going to try?
Give me a break.
Yeah, are you really going to try to bullshit us with footage like that?
They've been doing it our whole lives, man.
Yeah.
They've been doing it our whole lives.
Yeah, it's the most obvious, not flares. I mean, flares fall first. They don't stay in formation for 30 minutes or longer. I mean, that is something for sure.
Yeah, I definitely feel that this space program, I mean, me and Mike were talking about this not too long ago. There's no real way for them to disclose this information. And there has been some type of slow leak going on ever since, like, the, what's that dude's name, Mike, the serious guy? Richard Gere, fuck.
Doty?
Dr. Greer?
Oh, Stephen Greer.
Stephen Greer. Yeah, I think that was like the start of this slow leak of information. And like the idea of a fucking Space Marines happening, I mean, we can't even afford to send like a shuttle out there right now. So why are we going to start sending soldiers out there, or at least start building some type of force to patrol space or whatever he fucking has in mind? That's more far-fetched than the idea of a fucking UFO. So it just seems like this is the avenue they're picking to release a bigger piece of information.
Yeah, the Space Force idea is just so ludicrous that I can't see it really serving any practical purpose other than possibly
other defend us from the dangers of the universe, Michael. Oh my gosh, clown. Typical clown.
It's just, it has to be something behind it, I would think.
I've seen aliens. We need Space Marines, okay? Actually, they all died, so they weren't that much help. But
yeah, they did all die. They didn't do a good job at marining the aliens.
No, not at all. They all murdered. Rest in peace, Bill.
Great Texan. Texan, rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, shit, guys, before we let you go, can you tell everybody where they can find you guys on the internet, where they can find the show?
Yeah, we're on Stitcher and SoundCloud and iTunes. The Tx Files, just like spelled TX. We're on Twitter at @TX_files, on Instagram, which is at the TX Files.
Yep. TX Files.
Is that it, Michael? You can follow me. I'm at M_Ben. Death Metal Hippie is my old tag. Michael, I don't think he's on there very much anymore.
Yeah, I don't ever check it. I'll sometimes creep in on the TX Files Twitter, but mine is Michael is old, I believe. That's how little I'm on it. I don't even know the handle.
I'm not on there anymore either. Everybody's talking about Russian bots now, and I was like, dude, they've been infiltrating fucking Twitter for 5 years.
The reason the whole Russian thing is just so ludicrous sometimes.
Don't get them started.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys, and spending time with us. It's a fucking honor to have you guys on the show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very cool.
We appreciate you guys. And guys, now that I can not officially say it, but thank you guys for the stickers. I put one on my water bottle. I'm going to put one on my car. I got so many stickers, and I'm so excited.
All right. That's excellent, man.
Sticker the world.
Amen.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
Thanks for having us, fellas.
Later.
Nighty-night.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.